Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I'm super excited this morning to be at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum in Raleigh, North Carolina with its director, Mark Weathington. Mark, how long have you been director?
I've been director for about 5 years now.
Okay, nice. And where were you originally from? Give the viewers some background.
Sure. I grew up in kind of rural central Virginia, south of Richmond.
Okay.
Didn't really grow up gardening like some people. I kind of am jealous of people who grew up gardening with their grandmothers. That wasn't me, but discovered horticulture in college.
Okay, well.
It wasn't something I went there for, but wound up in there, took a class, and 3 classes in of a plant propagation class. Called my mom and said, I figured out what I'm going to do, which she was glad because I was bouncing around a little bit. And went down to the Atlanta Botanic Garden and realized, public horticulture was where I needed to be. I really like it. I like the teaching. I like displaying plants, the whole thing. And so I've been there, was director of horticulture in Norfolk, Virginia at Norfolk Botanic Garden, and then came here to my dream job.
Right. Wow. So give not so much history of the Raulston, but just what is the intent of this garden beyond its beauty of walking through here for visitors?
Sure. So the J.C. Raulston Arboretum is part of NC State University. We're in the Department of Horticulture, and as a land-grant university, we have an extension mission, which is to take the research and get it out to the public, get it out to nurserymen. So we bring in plants from all over the world, and we evaluate them, and we see if they're good plants. If they're really good plants, we try to get them in the hands of the nurserymen. Sometimes they're not great for us, and we'll ship them out to other places to evaluate. And then we teach the public how to garden, what to do, and move plants into the hands of breeders. So it's really kind of really trying to diversify the American landscape.
Right. Well, one great thing about this garden can be different things for different people. It can be a place for you to come and take a lunch break, stroll, and just see the beauty of a garden. And then it can be for the true plant nerd. I mean, really, how many taxa are in this?
There's about 7,000 different taxa or types of plants here at the Arboretum.
Yeah, it will blow your mind. I come here all the time and find something that what is that? How can it be 35 years and I've never seen it?
I've been here total for about 14 years, and I still sometimes stumble on something that I never really noticed, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Right. Okay, so Mark has agreed to give us some of his favorites here at the Raulston. We're going to shoot another video together in his home garden because he's an actual gardener beyond his role here at the Raulston. So the crepe myrtle behind us. We want to start with that.
Sure, we'll start with that. I will say though that when we talk about, it's a joke here because I give tours and every time I'm like, this is one of my favorite plants. And we actually did a tour where it was Mark's least favorite plants, and I struggled on that one trying to put. And every one I'm like, I don't really dislike this, but So yeah, this is one of our signature plants. This is an amazing plant, and it kind of spans the width of what the Arboretum does. So this is Lagerstremia faurii, the Japanese crepe myrtle. And this was one of the original introductions of this in 1956. John Creech from the National Arboretum brought this back from Japan. And so it actually predates the Arboretum when this land was still doing some evaluations. And we had 5 of these, and J.C. Raulston noticed that this particular one was very upright. The other ones tend to open up a little bit more. So he named this one Fantasy and thought, this is a great tree as a street tree, that sort of thing, because it goes up rather than out for the branching. Gorgeous thing in itself. It flowers with white flowers for about 3 weeks. And then it has just the most amazing bark.
Incredible. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
And what's great about this tree, beyond it being a beauty, is Lagerstremia faurii doesn't get powdery mildew. Typical crepe myrtle gets a lot of powdery mildew. So starting with the National Arboretum, they started breeding these two. So you get the great bark, you get powdery mildew resistance, but you also get what you get from Lagostrema indica, which is all kinds of colors and a long bloom time.
Right.
So anytime you see one of these with a Native American name, Natchez, Muskegee, Hopi, Miami, that's all hybrid with this plant.
Right, and that's Don Egoff.
Don Egoff did that breeding up at the National Arboretum.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. Beautiful tree. So next up is a Magnolia hybrid for you, Serendipity.
Serendipity, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Now this is a really interesting one from looking at it, the part of the Arboretum's mission and what we do. We received this plant from a great plant breeder down in Alabama, Bobby Green, doing a lot of work with these evergreen magnolias. And Bobby sent this one up with some other ones, just had a number on it, didn't have a name. It was just for us to trial and look at. And we started growing it. And, you know, the goal for most of these is narrow and straight up. But there's a room for larger, you know, rounder plants like this. And we loved it. We said, Bobby, you got to put a name on this. And he said, no. He's like, it's good for breeding, but it's not, you know, it's not a plant to introduce. And a year or two later, we said, Bobby, you got to put a name on this. And he said, no. And finally, I said, Bobby, I got nurserymen here locally who are really interested in this plant, Magnolia, this Magnolia you have, and you got to put a name on it or we're going to. It's that good for us. And he said, all right, well, it's a lucky find. We'll call it Serendipity. So Magnolia Serendipity. And the nurserymen around here love it. So it makes kind of a big round shrub. There's some of the nurserymen who are growing it up as a single trunk. But what I love about it is even when it's not in flower, it's got these beautiful coppery buds on here. And when it starts to flower in spring, in April, it'll start from the back. So you'll get flowers in the back. And, you know, in April, we still get some cold weather. And so even if you get a cold snap and it kills those flowers, these ones up towards the tip haven't opened yet. And they keep opening up as you go farther and farther through the spring. So it blooms for a really long time. And always, you know, you get flowers after the bloom time. Whenever this is in flower in the spring, people are flocking to it.
Right. And how fragrant is it?
It's somewhat fragrant, not as fragrant as some of it. It does have banana shrub, magnolia, figo in the parentage, but not super fragrant. I'm told I have almost no sense of smell.
No way.
So you know
that's a strange business to land in. Yeah. What everybody's telling you. Yeah, the buds are beautiful on it, and folks on my channel have definitely heard me talk about Bobby Green. I'm going to be down there doing the same kind of video with Bobby in the next couple weeks, and there's October Magic series of camellias. He's released a lot of stuff.
He's great because he also looks at form, and with camellia breeding, a lot of the camellias you get big old honking flowers, but on a floppy, ugly plant. And his plants, he's really looking at form as well as flower, which I think is important.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Let's move on. One of the most beautiful places here at the Raulston is the Laugh House area, and I think it really draws some of the most interesting pieces at the Arboretum are here. I've been walking past this fuchsia for a few times in the last few weeks, and I don't know anything about it. So go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, we like to try plants that don't grow here. Normally fuchsia, they're all from South America. A lot of them grow in kind of cloud forest areas where it never gets too hot, never gets too cold. And none of them like our heat during the summer. They just melt. You buy a hanging basket of fuchsia and it melts by early summer. This is one that's sold as Angel Earrings Cascading. It has the actual cultivar name of Santa Hamp, which just rolls off the tongue. But this is the one fuchsia for us that will survive our winters, thrive during our summers. It flowers from late spring all the way to frost. Now it usually dies back to the ground for us, but it will get a nice size in a single season. And this has been flowering so long, there's actually fruit forming on it, little berries that you get in addition to those amazing flowers. And that just kind of shows you how long it's been in flower. It just goes on and on and on. I actually grow this at my house right at the base of some shrubs, and it'll kind of climb up through the shrubs like almost like a small clematis or something like that, which is kind of interesting. If you plant it out, it makes this beautiful kind of shrubby type of plant.
How sun tolerant?
This will tolerate actually quite a bit of sun and flower just fine. It wants moisture if it's going to be in the sun. It doesn't want to be hot and dry.
Right.
But if it's getting regular irrigation, it's fine in sun. But it flowers its head off in the shade as well. So it's a really useful plant because you get this color for months and months.
Yeah, it's gotten my attention every time I've walked through here this summer. So Mark, tell me why this particular fatsia is one of your favorites.
Okay, well, fatsia is a really easy shrub for us. It's a great evergreen. It's they're drought tolerant. They're easy, and what we grow exclusively in the U.S. is fatsia japonica.
Right.
Well, I found out before I went on a first collecting trip to Taiwan that they have a species there, fatsia polycarpa. And it's got a bigger leaf when it's really going, more deeply incised leaf, so a little bit different texture, and I really fell in love with it when I found it. So we collected it, and that's why we go collecting, is to bring these plants that aren't really in cultivation. And we grew out a bunch, and some of them weren't very hardy. It depended on elevation. This is one that we named Jade Dragon because it's been such a good plant. And what's really exciting to me about this, beyond this being a great plant itself, is part of the reason fatsia japonica you don't see very often, or when you do, sometimes it's expensive, is because to grow it, it flushes once a year. In the spring, it flushes growth, and that's it for the year. So for a nurseryman to grow it, it takes many years to get a good-sized plant. This flushes multiple times per year.
Yeah, and it still is.
It's still going.
Almost October.
Now, it's not quite as hardy as fatsia japonica. In a cold winter, the tips can die, but not bad. It'll recover very quickly. But a hybrid between this and fatsia japonica, what we could go for is that multiple flushing, but get the hardiness from fatsia japonica. And so we're really looking at this as both a great plant in itself, especially for the southeast, but also as a parent in breeding projects.
Right. Would this be something you would do as a rooted cutting, or you collect seed collection?
So, well, for the hybrids, obviously seed collection, but to propagate this, you can really take a whack off a big old stem and root it. But it'll get little shoots on the interior, and we'll cut those off and root those small plants because it grows out very, very quickly.
Right. It getting stung in the winter is probably also keeping it fuller.
It does. Yeah. I mean, they can grow kind of spindly, and in the wild they're often a single trunk.
Right.
But yeah, this one got, especially as a young plant, we had a couple cold winters, and it knocked it back and made it a little bit bushier. But that's the other thing in production. You can whack off the top and it'll flush out, and it's still quick enough to get it to market within a few years.
Wow, nice, beautiful.
Another plant that I think is fantastic that gets an unfair rep in the gardening world sometimes is Daphne Odora, the winter Daphne. It makes a great little small evergreen shrub, which I love. Doesn't get too big, which is good for a lot of gardens. This is a really nice variegated form called Myjima. There's a very similar one called Rebecca, but the plain green ones are beautiful. They're all great. There's no bad Daphne Odora in my mind. In the winter, kind of late winter, little buds at the tips of most of these branches a cluster of buds will open up. They start pink and they open up to kind of pale pink to white. And I said I don't have a very good sense of smell, but I can smell this. It's one of those fragrances that really does, you don't have to stick your nose in it. If you are 20, 30 feet away from it, it kind of wafts on the breeze with that lemon scent. Think of a Magnolia grandiflora, Southern Magnolia, that kind of scent, but even stronger. It's beautiful. People give it a hard time because often it'll grow beautifully, and then after 5, 6, 7 years, it'll just die, which I think great. Too many plants linger when they're going to die. This one just dies when it dies. Says when it starts to look bad. And people say, well, if I only get 5 years out of it, why should I buy it? And I always respond, you buy annuals that are, going to last 1 year anyway. This will give you 5 years of amazing, amazing fragrance and beauty, so it's worth it. The secret is they want excellent drainage. People baby these and put them in the best spot in the garden, give them irrigation. Now, they really want great drainage. They don't want to go into our heavy clay. I often buy small plants and plant them right at the base of trees where the tree sucks up a lot of the moisture and doesn't allow it to stay too wet. And they last for a long, long time that way. But even if you don't have the perfect spot and it only lasts 5 years, it's cheaper than a handful of cups of coffee at your favorite coffee shop. So it's definitely worth the investment. This is a plant that's quickly becoming a new favorite of mine. It's really just come on the scene. It's called Carys Sedge, and it's a sedge, so it's in the grass family. Doesn't look like it at all. With these really wide leaves, almost have a bluish texture to them. Really beautiful things. And then in the late summer into fall, it flowers and fruits with these pinkish red flowers that I think are really beautiful against the foliage. Now, some people are having a little bit of trouble growing this, and what I have found is they want shade. They don't want too much moisture. A lot of sedges really like almost a wet soil. These like a well-drained soil. But the real secret is they're cool season growers. So this time of year, they are growing and they're at their most active. They'll look good all winter, and by the summertime, they'll start to look a little bit sadder. And that's when we cut back some of the old foliage and clean them up, and they'll kind of go along and look okay over the summer, and then in fall really come out and look beautiful. So I tell people, don't plant this one in the spring. Make sure you plant it in the fall, and that's when it'll be actively growing, putting out roots, putting out new leaves, and then it'll be ready to take on the summer when it's kind of in its dormant stage. But for a grass to look like this in September, October, November, I think you can't beat that in a shade garden.
We got to do just one more here. This is the way this is. We could probably bounce around here all day long doing this, honestly, if the sun would cooperate, and the trains and the planes and everything else. So let's talk about this Chinese banana.
Yeah, this is a really cool plant. We've been trying a lot of bananas, and a lot of them we're finding are pretty hardy, but they can get big and get tough for a small landscape. This is Musella lasiocarpa. As you said, it's from China. And what I think is really cool about this is kind of takes the place of a shrub. You got these large waxy leaves, which are really beautiful. It's multi-stemmed, and what's wild about it is we'll have these huge yellow flowers that are really showy. Technically, what's showy are the bracts. There are small flowers inside there, but right. That's semantics. This is a flower as we all think of it.
Right.
Now, it's quite hardy. But in a very cold winter, like we've had several years ago, it will die back to the ground. It'll kill it back. We just cut away that foliage and cut away those stems and let it grow again. This has been in the ground for a decade now, and we get flowers on it every year. We take divisions off of there to propagate it, and it always is gets a response from people.
Yeah, that's amazing because, I mean, four winters ago, we didn't come above freezing for a week.
Yeah,
I mean, and to just only die back to the ground is pretty good.
And we love seeing those cold winters. We're the unusual garden where we love it cold, we love it dry. That 2007 100-year drought, great for us. Freeze for a week, great for us, because we really do want to evaluate these plants. And there are things we have here that have been growing for 3 years. They look great, but we haven't had a real winter since that winter 4 years ago. So, you know, we've been zone 9 almost for some of those winters. So we really want to see what happens and test these plants.
Right. And I haven't said through the entire video, we are in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is zone 7B, probably almost 8A because we're in an urban surroundings. Yeah. And so most winters, I think, is probably 8A.
Yeah, that's where we usually are.
Okay, nice. So thank you very much, Mark. And again, we're going to shoot another one of these tomorrow. Just to wrap this up real quick, why would someone want to turn off Interstate 40 when they're coming through North Carolina and come to the J.C. Raulston Arboretum?
Well, for one, we're free. So it's great to come in, but it's a nice place to come in with whether you just want to stroll and want to walk through a pretty place, get some shade here during the summer, have a picnic, bring kids out. We find that adults and children really respond to beauty out here. If you're a plant lover, you're always going to see something new. I guarantee you're going to see something that you've never seen before out here, no matter how much of a plant lover you are. We have a lot of programs, tours, educational things online. So there's a lot to do to come out here. It is a research collection, not a park, so we don't want soccer balls and things like that out here. But we definitely want people to come, even if they're just looking for kind of a safe, calm haven. Because as soon as you step in here, you step in under some big trees and all this green, and your heart rate just goes down. It's such a nice environment for de-stressing. Right.
And one thing, just I encourage people on my channel frequently is to come to a garden not just peak spring when things are obviously blooming. Anybody can get something to bloom in May, but you can come to this garden 12 months out of the year and you're going to find something that's going to blow your socks off. Stem color, leaf color, still flowering. Yeah, super interesting. So thanks again, Mark, and I look forward to doing this one in your landscape.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. It'll be fun.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.